All right, what's going on? What's crack-a-lackin', everybody? It's podcast number 46. We have an action-packed podcast for you as I'm hitting these charms on my microphone. My wife gives me these good luck charms everywhere. Here, put this in your wallet. Here, hang this on this. Here, put this in your shop. I don't know about you, man, but I don't know if any of your wives are superstitious or if your husband is we're definitely stupid-stitious, but are they superstitious? I'm not sure. I'm a little bit, but so far I'm going along with it because she's been pretty dang good about it. So anyways, we have an action-packed podcast as usual, and we are going to be talking about how to educate your customer. I did a live video today on my my Facebook page, not my personal page. Remember, we'll talk about that in more detail. And I was educating the customer, and we'll get into that. I'm also going to have a special guest, Joe from Dent Evo, Joe Garcia. Very good tech. He is in Southern California. He's about an hour and a half away from me. And he gave me a very cool light too, and he also attended the IMI. We're going to talk about, I know we've talked about IMI, the importance of it, but how can you use it as a tool? To me personally, it's one of the most important certifications you can get because you can make money off of it. And usually Tesla people will pay that money, and we'll talk about that too as well. We'll get Joe's thoughts on that. And then we're going to talk about the vintage light that he gave me as well. It's kind of a two-part thing about that. And we'll get into whatever swings my way into this, but let's talk about promotions coming up right now, how to educate the customer.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Toledo, your host on Dent Time PDR, a podcast about PDR training, tutorials, interviews, and much more. So get something to eat, drink, and start pushing. It's time to listen.
All right. Let's get right into it here. So I don't think enough of you do the educating part. Me and Don talk about it a lot when he's on here. We got to keep promoting ourselves, the educating the customer, not just how good we are, but how important it is to understand that choosing the right paintless dent repair technician is like choosing the right plastic surgeon. I said it before. I'll remind you for the new listeners who have never heard me talk about this. I'm going to kind of reiterate. There's something that we always have to remind each other to keep our the value of our worth up. And I'm talking about, it's not about the prices, it's about the value of your time and what you're worth and what you bring to the table. Not how cheap you are, not what your competitors are doing, but really the value. And this podcast is generally about this whole thing. It's about the value. So let me get into what I did today, which will be you'll be hearing tomorrow, which is today for you, or whenever you're listening to this. But just before you heard this podcast, I did, and you might not see it on here. It depends on when you're listening. You might not see it on my Facebook page. You might have to scroll all the way down. But I said why you need to choose, don't choose cheap over good quality. Okay, that's kind of where the title was. So I had a customer bring in a vehicle, and I'm sure all of you who've been in the game for a long time have come across this at one time or another, either a dealership, through a retail customer or whatnot. But you've seen someone else's work. And honestly, for a fact they could have done better. And then so you end up cleaning it up. Thank God it's the one that came in right now wasn't entirely the worst I've seen. Still pokey, man. Still dent different. That's what I call it. It's not dent better. Sometimes it can go from dent, kind of dent worse, honestly. Not dent different. So what I'm getting at is I had a vehicle who bought it used. Okay. He didn't call someone else because this is his second time coming in. He bought this car with me in mind, and he wanted me to take care of the dents. So I said, sure. So he brings it in, and I had my Taiwanese students here for advanced training, and one of them caught it. I didn't see it. I was going around the car, just looking, put my light on it, and I overlooked it. And it was, not super obvious, but it was enough And I put the light on. And I was like, oh my gosh, it looked like worse acne. And you opened up the door, of course. I knew there was going to be a hole, and sure enough, there was. But the manufacturing access point, the hole wasn't the big deal. All right. It's where they drilled the hole was the big deal. And then you could tell that the tech used, or he went too aggressive with a sharp tool. And that tells me two things. You don't understand how to use your tip. You weren't trained correctly, and you didn't understand how to read the reflection. Because once you understand the reflection, fog or lines, you'll be able to predict. It's called predictive pushing. See what you're doing before you actually make the mistake. That's predictive pushing. Okay. You want to see it before it happens. And in other words, always know where your tip is at. So I decided, you know what? This would be a good educational video for a live for PDR for Dent Time on my Facebook page. What I end up doing is, you know it, turning on, doing live video. Here's the thing too, guys. You really got to get comfortable about doing this, because sooner or later, everyone's going to be doing it. I'm going to tell you, sooner or later, everyone is going to be doing this. Whether you have to do a live podcast, or you have to do, a live video on through your Facebook, or you have to do it on YouTube, get comfortable with it. So I go, hey, everybody, I want to talk about this repair. Before I'm doing the repair, I wanted to go over why you need to make sure you choose a very good paintless dent repair technician company to do your repair. And start in kind of easy. Don't be a total, this is why, this is a hack. I mean, don't sound too abrupt. You know, hey, it's usually you're educating them. This is why. And then use a metaphor. I always use the plastic surgery method because people get it. And this is how I say it. You know, we are like plastic surgeons. You have good doctors and you have bad ones. Sometimes if you're going to get plastic surgery on your face, you're not going around town asking who's the cheapest. And you ask them, right? You're not going around. Paintless dent removal is plastic surgery for your car. Really, you only get one chance to do it right. And sometimes you get lucky and we can fix what has been done wrong. But most of the time, it's irreversible and you're stuck going to the traditional body shop method where you have to repaint the panel, which you were trying to avoid in the first place. And that's how you try to convince the customer. At the same time, you're educating them that it's not like going to get a gallon of milk at the store. You know, this is way different. And this is why we need to show examples when we have the opportunity. Maybe you don't want to do a live video. You don't have to. Record it. Do a voiceover if you don't want to do in front of the camera. I think it's always best to show your face in front of the camera. Let people know who you are. It builds trust. It builds much bigger trust than if you were hiding behind the camera and talking. That's fine. You can start that way, but don't get too comfortable with that. Eventually, you're going to have to stand in front of the camera. Truly, if you really want to take your company and go to the top, you do. Look how many commercials with people in their own businesses in front of the camera. You know, here in San Diego, there's plumbers, there's carpet companies, there's heating and air companies. They even have their own family in there, like their kids, because they know that people like that. They like to know who they're dealing with. And I think that's part of your solution to help educate the customer, and it builds trust. Don't attack the customer. Don't attack the person who made the mistake. Just educate them. Don't put that person down too. I mean, you can say this is, unethical, or this wasn't the way I would do it, but you don't want to keep attacking. You just want to educate. If you think about it as you're educating them, your demeanor, the way you're going to explain things, is going to be much better. So don't be that guy who's, trying to just be the number one and be super aggressive. And it's a turnoff anyways, okay? It really is, regardless if you're the viewer or you're the customer, it's a turnoff. So that's just my take. I know that for the most part is true. Sometimes it might work once in a while, depending on the situation, but I don't recommend it to do it consistently, okay? But set the customer up. Hey, we're about to work on this vehicle. We're going to do some dents here. We're going to glue pull it. There's a little bit of a crown here. This is the part that takes a little bit longer. When a dent gets hit, the metal moves out to the outside. It's called the shock wave held in time. That's the hard part. We've got to reverse, and we got to spend a lot of time on it. But meanwhile, let me show you something. This car's been worked on before. Unfortunately, it wasn't performed right, and this is why you really need to do your research when it comes to paintless dent removal. This is very much like plastic surgery for your vehicle. And just like anything else, you don't go around asking for who's the cheapest doctor. You ask for who's the best. And we are the good doctors for your car. You know what I mean? You just kind of be real smooth, set the story up, and you know what? Be convincing. Believe it as you're talking. The more you talk, the more convincing you sound, the more building the trust you are. You're not bullcrapping them. You're telling them, you're setting up the facts. You're showing what really happened. You're showing the circumstances, the bad things that could happen, and you're going to be the person that can fix it. That's a good solution. And that's going to work. In fact, there's people sharing it because there was other dent companies that are saying, you know what, that's true. And they want to share it and educate their customer. I think we all need to do a part of educating the customer, putting paintless dent removal out there more and more. We are the first ones that people should think about if they have a dent in their vehicle, even if there's some paint damage. Some people can live with a minor crack or a paint chip. Most people can. I mean, is that minor paint chip worth an extra $700, $1,200, being away from their vehicle, Carfax report, insurance going up? There's a lot of factors that go into that. Is it really worth it for them to gain that extra 10% improvement? So that's my take on that, dude. Like I said, I don't like to stay on subjects too long. I just like to put something in your ear. We still got to do our part on educating every day. When I go to the shop, I think about what I can do to help educate and then promote my business. Sometimes I forget, but most of the time I do. At the end of the video, I tell them, hey, if you've got a dent in your vehicle, a scratch in your vehicle, because I do paint repair as well for our mobile bumper repair stuff, contact me. My phone number is 858-943-9676. Text me a photo. I'll reply back with an estimate and a quick quote with our availability. And I say something like that. Or if you want to message me right above, because I'm talking on my Facebook page, please do there. Upload a photo there. Be real. Practice your smoothness. That's what I think you need to do. Practice your smoothness. Some of you guys are like, I'll never do that. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Stop thinking that way. You guys are business owners right now. You guys are entrepreneurs, whether you want to think that or not. You're entrepreneurs. You have to change your gear now. This is 2019, people. That's at least at the time I'm recording this podcast. I might be dead in a couple of years, and you guys are listening to this, and I'm all for Mike, man, he's right. I know I'm right. That's how I built my business. That's how I became where I'm at. I knew there's things that I really didn't want to do. I knew there was things I wasn't comfortable with, but I knew I had to get better at. So, speaking of getting better, I put a saying up today, and I love sayings, dude. So, it really meant it really hit home because every dent that I try, it doesn't come out as good as I want. And this was food for thought for you guys. So, attempting big dents that I couldn't fix completely wasn't a waste of time. I just came to a harsh reality. I could do better. So, and that doesn't have to be dents. That could mean marketing. That could mean doing videos. That could be putting yourself in front of the camera, educating the customer. You suck. Yeah, we suck right now. Whatever you think you suck at, you could do better. If you try. And I don't mean half-ass try, because you get half-ass results. Well, usually half-ass try gets you no results. Really. But if you really are trying, you're going to see results. So, second time, that's into my spiel. All right, so we're going to call Joe Garcia. Now, Joe Garcia is, as mentioned, he's a PDR tech in the kind of like Riverside, Claremont area. It's just up north, okay? He has been trained by the same person that trained my stepdad. I'll let him tell you the year. The guy's name is Rick Dugan. Anyways, we are going to just give him just a little bit of time to come on. So I'll give him a call in just a second. So the topic of this next segment is going to be vintage PDR. And what I mean by that is I'm going on 30 years, which is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. It started in 1991. And if you want to hear the full story and super interesting, I think you're going to really dig it. You can check out podcast number 2, and that will definitely set the whole thing up, because I'm not going to go into the whole spiel. That's why I created a podcast number 2. So anyways, he was trained by my stepdad. I mean, trained by the same person as my stepdad. So we had the IMI, because I'm going to set the story up when he comes in. And he brings this light in. This is just last weekend. And he goes, "You recognize this, Mike?" And I looked at it and I was like, holy crap. I go, "Yeah, that's the same light I used when I was doing dents. It looks exactly like it." And he goes, "That's because it is." I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, I have one and I found another extra one and I restored it and I'm giving it to you." So that was just amazing. I practically almost like went into tears. So that's the story.
Hello, Mike.
Joe Garcia. How you been, man?
What's up, buddy? I'm good. I've been real good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, man. So you finally, we finally got be able to connect after the IMI event.
Yeah, man. I've been really pumped since the event, man. It's always great to get together, and then even more so because just the responsibility that we have, also, of learning everything we can, and especially when it comes to the safety of what we do. I mean, when crying out loud, when you could die working on an electric vehicle, it's very important, obviously.
Yeah, and that's why I'm calling you. There's two things, okay? Two things we're going to talk about, the topics that here, because I already had another topic about something else, but you'll hear the rest of the podcast. I still want you to listen to it too, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Listen, first of all, I want you to introduce yourself, where you're from, what's your handle on Instagram or wherever else you have anything else, and how long you've been doing it, and just a brief history of how you got into it. So go ahead.
Yeah, for sure, man. Okay. My name is Joe Garcia, and my Instagram handle is Dent Evo, at Dent Evo. Simple as that. That's my business. Kind of like my alter ego, really. After all these years, I've been doing it since '97. I started training with Rick Dugan out in California, out here, Southern California. Claremont is where I'm from, and what else did you want to know? Sorry about that.
That Claremont, set me up the area of Claremont. Is that like Riverside area? And like, what part of California is that?
Okay. So we're right on the border of LA County and San Bernardino. We're probably about 25 minutes from Riverside. So
Okay.
I understand you used to do some work in Riverside.
I did. Like just briefly, not a whole lot. I used to do Raceway Ford out there. Believe it or not. Can you believe that?
Wow, man.
I used to cover that whole area at one point from that point all the way down to San Diego. So it was dumb, stupid, man. Like crazy. So
yeah, you guys.
Listen. Let's talk about. I'm going to talk about the IMI, and then we're going to talk about vintage PDR, and then we'll get into Rick Dugan and a little bit of history into that, because I think it's interesting, Joe. Here's the deal. Okay, we've had numerous topics on IMI, which is the certification for electric vehicles, which, like you said, it's very important. And to me personally, let's talk about the significance of it and why it's important, because not only it'll help you save your life, but you know what? This is probably one of the most important certifications you can get, and profitable at the same time. This is where somebody would really care that you actually have a certification, because it matters. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I'll be honest with you, Mike. When I first signed up for it, I was really looking at it from like a marketing standpoint, which, from what I understand, a lot of the other guys felt the same. And I mean, absolutely, it's a great way to market your business. Why not? You're like the authority on your subject now. Just automatically putting that IMI certification there, you are the top of the hierarchy. But it wasn't until about an hour in, listening to Vince, and that guy, by the way, we've always, I've known him for years. I've known you guys for many, many years. And, I've always known Vince as a happy-go-lucky, too cool for school almost kind of guy,
Yeah.
And that guy is very knowledgeable at the electric vehicles and hybrids. And I was really impressed at how I could tell he really believes in it. And it's a good thing to believe in. I mean, let's face it. So it was about an hour in when it dawned on me. It's like, holy schmoly, man, this is not anything to mess with. And he shows us some pictures of, where, I was always under the impression, Mike, that the high voltage wires were, I sound so foolish now when I think about it, but I thought the high voltage cables were all underneath the vehicle, maybe close to the rocker panel, if that,
Yeah.
But he showed us pictures of the orange high voltage cables going through a fender on one was a Macan, if I remember correctly, Porsche. And then the other was like a Mazda that didn't even look like an electric vehicle. It was like one of the cars that, and they go into this, Vince went into this about how, some cars don't even look like electric vehicles. You got like the Highlanders now that are, the hybrid and electric. And you don't know until you kind of search for it. But one of those photos, going back to that, I mean, there was a cable right there, right where we would just go in and pry and not even think about it.
I know. We take for granted. Again, I like to use the word condition, that we're working on a normal car. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're sticking sharper and sharper tools in now because we're getting used to using sharp tools. What happens if one of those sharp tools puncture one of those cables, man? It's over like Rover, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
But here's what I got out of it. I mean, of course, I've already taken my IMI, and so since I went to England and got certified, I was thinking, okay, how can you promote that you took the certification, right? And how many times during the week do you get Teslas, right? Or you get electric vehicles now? It seems like you're getting more and more often, right? Especially the Model 3. I have to tell you, I've been worked on the Model 3 more than I have any other Tesla now. And
Really?
yep, it keeps more and more. I keep getting text messages. So I think you heard me mention this before at the show. So I want to give a tech tip. So this is what you could do. You could, and I think you've already heard me say this, but I want to tell everyone else who's already IMI certified, or you getting ready to IMI certified, or whatever. If you work on a common situation and you already took a picture of it, or you posted on your Instagram, that specific Instagram post, you can actually copy the URL from that. And then you can actually show, hey, I am IMI certified. Here's a link to show proof that I went to the class, or I hear my certificate right here. And then I had a little post about it. And you can copy and paste that link to your text message, to your email, or whatever. And that person can automatically click on it and see that you've been certified. You know what I mean? It's
right. Yeah.
Especially here's my thing. The Tesla people they don't even think twice, Joe. I don't know about you, but when I give them a price, they're on it. And especially if I say I'm IMI certified, I'm legally certified to work on your vehicle. If I need to power it down, I can do that as well. So
yes, I do find a little bit of an OCD element in the Tesla consumers, which is good for us, in my opinion. So yes, having, being safe and them knowing that, like, they're concerned about their car, obviously, and I would say more so than an owner of a hybrid, or a regular Prius or something,
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. I mean, were you were nervous in the beginning or not of your class?
Nervous of what?
Were you nervous going through the certification, or did you think it was easy?
So like the tests and stuff, I was a little bit taken aback. I think a lot of us were in the class of how thorough and how, like, just how much information, like, we're a bunch of dent guys, man.
Yeah.
Let's face it. We I haven't taken a written test in a while. So, we were joking, of course, that, this is why we got into dents in the first place. So we didn't have to use the pen or do, intellectual work, but it's very thorough. There's a lot of, it's open book. So you can really, it's training, it's not just a test. So, as far as, like, being nervous about failing, I knew that this is a situation where they want you to learn. Vince wants you to learn. So, for your own sake and for the sake of our industry too.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
Yeah. I think that, that was a big part of it. And I think we had fun with that part, just acting like, we're a bunch of dumbos over there, dumb old dent guys, but we knew what was going on, that we're learning in the process. And there was a bit of a repetitive learning by reading, listening to Vince speak, then writing it down, and then doing it all over again in the actual test where it's hands-on and we're powering down an EV.
Yeah. And you know what, we had Vince's car, his little Soul, right? Wasn't too bad, powering down. I mean, there was a few things we had to take apart.
Right.
And then we had the Tesla, the Model X, right? That sucker, you had to take a lot of stuff out just to get to the battery.
Yeah.
Once we get the battery, just to power it down was simple, but you had to disconnect the battery first, and then you had to pull out all this stuff out. And then we were talking about, here's what we also forget is that we don't, we're not thinking about charging these customers. There's still risk, there's still responsibility in that, and liability if you break a clip or if you pull stuff. So people, that's another thing that you guys can benefit off of being IMI certified, is that you can charge to power down these vehicles, and you should. Even though you're conditioned to not normally do something like that, you think it's part of in the price. But again, I feel it's important that you itemize what you're going to do, the process of why you're charging what you're charging to do work on an electric vehicle. Excuse me. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. I definitely agree, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we charge anything. If we're going back to like the price of dent that most of us use now, and Paul Corden's price guide and the other price guides that are, available. Thank goodness. We're using all these factors that determine the difficulty of the repair. And guess what? Yes, powering down a Tesla is a big deal. It's worth at least $150, in my opinion. I think it's worth more, quite frankly. And doing it, with all the standards, of keeping not only yourself safe, but your customers safe. It's a responsibility.
Yeah.
We're going into another level of PDR. I don't mean to sound like overly dramatic here, but it's another level. And we are legitimized now, and more so. And thanks to this, and thanks to the professionalism that you've had all over the years, in your videos and the way you portray what we do to the consumer. Well, here's another level.
Yeah. And while we're at that, giving thanks to, I think we need to give a hand to Anson and the TDN group who've been pushing the forefront of this, and they've done a terrific job. Kevin Andrews, who's the one, the creator of that, and
right.
Let me tell you something. You think Vince is hardcore? Wait until you go through Kevin Andrews, man. If you had to go through Kevin Andrews, man, yeah. We might have been there another 2 days, dude. So, in a good way. Super thorough.
Yeah,
not saying that Vince wasn't. I'm just saying, buy the book. You know what I mean? So it is. Right. It's like I said. I'm very grateful that I'm certified, and I think it's a tool for everything. It's one of the most important certifications that I think people should go out there. So if you're thinking about signing up, maybe you have a big group that you're thinking about signing up, get a hold of Anson, see if you can host one, get a ground of people up there, and see how it goes. Or you want an individual, you want to attend a IMI, go to ansonpdr.com, check out the events. They should have some areas where they're going to host an IMI. We are thinking about having one at the Mega Media event, so it's not for sure official yet, but we are definitely thinking about that. So,
cool.
All right. Yeah. So let's get back into you. Okay. So you've been pushing since 97. I've checked out your work. Of course, I've known you for about 5 years. We met at MTE. I didn't even know you were in my backyard, dude, like down, in Southern California. Right. But I saw it. Little did I know that you and I were closer than we thought. Like far as like, not as in like neighbors, but
lineage,
our background. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, check out right now. I want you, if you guys are looking it up, check out Joe. It's Dent Evo, or Instagram at Dent Evo. Okay, check his work out. He's legit. And another freaking super nice guy, man. And you've been doing it since 97. Let's get into Rick Dugan. Now, he's actually trained my stepdad back in 1989, 90, somewhere around there. Okay. I can't remember the exact date, but you've been trained by him 97. And how did that come up, man? How did you get trained by the same dude that trained my stepdad?
Well, at this point, I'm hoping it's the same Rick. It's got to be.
It is. I remember the last name. I remember. Look, dude, there's no way. We're going to talk about the lake. There's no way you could have brought that, what we're going to talk about later. So go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The line reflection is a big deal. That's, let's face it, not a lot of guys use lines. And we're kind of
unicorns.
We're kind of rare birds,
Yeah.
Right. So, So, and, from what I understand, your stepdad was the one who trained you, right? Rick, not Rick?
Not Rick, no.
Okay, well, I kind of got a little bit of, with all due respect to Rick, I kind of got stepson training too, because Rick was, he was gracious enough to bring me into the fray and introduce me to PDR, and as well as just the inspiration of just giving me that inspiration of like, hey man, you can do something cool, really innovative. But he was with all due respect to him, he was kind of on his way out at that point in 97. He was getting a little bit a little bit frustrated with competitors coming in and charging really, really low prices. There, we've always had those guys that, I don't want to start putting the spotlight on them, but there's always those who are in the race to the bottom.
Yeah.
They just want to get the job. And he was getting frustrated with that. And to top it off, Rick, he was a really, really interesting cat. This guy was, he was one of those guys that would see something innovative or something, a neat skill to learn, and he would master it. And he would do it for a while. He'd do it professionally, including PDR and other things that I'll get to in a minute. He would master it, get bored of it, and being a restless soul, he'd want to do something else. And so I think I caught him on the outs a little bit, where he was kind of losing that passion for the business. And while he started to train me a little bit, I started learning more from his protege, Mike Adams, who was also a phenomenal tech. He's still around. He's up in the San Luis Obispo area now with his own shop, if I understand correctly. But he taught me a lot. I learned a lot from Mike, and Mike was a direct student of Rick's.
And is he still a line board guy?
He's still a line board guy.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, so maybe you should be interviewing Mike, because I think Mike knows more about Rick, to be honest, because he really, he was almost like his surrogate son for a while.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just wanted to know, I just want to get, this isn't about Rick Dugan, but it's just a coincidence about, the heritage and where we've all kind of developed, and came from,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously you can hear how impressed I am with Rick, because like I said, he changed my life by introducing me to PDR. And, so I feel like, and the other thing, dude, is like seeing, and again, we'll get back to the thing the subject that you were talking about that you're going to introduce later in the conversation. But I've had a little bit of, kind of like, I'm not a nostalgic guy, I like to be in the now. I like to look towards the future.
Yep.
But this past week, before IMI, because I knew I was going to be bringing that light, that old antique light to you. And I was kind of like, I was getting like flashback to those times and how I saw things then. And I realized just what a gift I was being introduced to PDR. I really think it's a gift. I believe in PDR. I really do.
You know what? I'll be honest with you. I don't think a lot of people, I think they unconsciously, they know that, but they don't admit it like you did. You know what I mean? Like my stepdad wasn't, you guys probably heard maybe on podcast too. Great PDR tech, not a good teacher. Right. Okay. But
there's a difference.
I'm going to extract what he did. He introduced me to PDR. He asked me if I want to do PDR. If it wasn't for him asking me, taking me out, dragging me out to, Palm Desert and learning, I wouldn't be here. You know what I mean? Yeah, he wasn't the greatest teacher, but I took what I could get from it and learned a lot. You know what I mean? And that's what you're saying. And not saying we're not taking any credit away from anybody. They did the best they could based on what they knew. You know what I mean? So that's how I guess my point of view of seeing that.
For sure, man. When you were in that little Carmen Gia in 110 degrees.
Oh my God! I can't surprise it made it.
Yeah, no kidding. You guys covered a lot of ground now.
So let's talk about vintage PDR here, dude. All right.
Okay.
So we are at the IMI. You're at my shop. Let's set the tone here. I think we just got done with the certification. You just got certified. You passed and all that good stuff. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
So I see you out there. I saw you tinkering something. I thought you were going to bring in and I just looked briefly, and I thought you were going to bring in one of those big, massive, what is that rope ratchet, big pole system for glue pulling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the Marty Runick thing.
Look like a big T thing. And so you come in, you know, I don't think anything about it, but you roll in with this big wrought iron looking light. How long is that? Like that thing it's kind of like 5 feet, isn't it? Like at least,
yeah,
5.5 feet tall, something like that.
Yeah.
Half-inch lines on it. And you go, hey, Mike, does this look familiar? And I instant like things just start flying through me, and like bringing that thing out and putting it together for my stepdad. And I go, yeah, that looks like my light I used to use. And you go, well, that is. And I was like, holy crap, dude. And I couldn't say anything, dude, because it was like it felt the whole history of my career was, I see it right in that light, dude. You know what I mean? It was the struggles I used to like. Yes. That's what really, the pain and doubting the things that, like, am I going to get through? Am I going to ever be able to do this? Or am I going to make any money that I could feel proud of? I remember looking at that light for hours and hours and years. And that's what was going through my mind. And it's hard to explain, but you guys are probably thinking, what a punk Mike is, you know, but no.
Yeah, maybe you lost a few listeners. Huh?
I just want to say thank you for bringing that, man. And I'm still overwhelmed. I look at that. I walk in the shop by myself today, and it's super quiet, but eerie at the same time, just staring at that light going, and just sitting there, just thinking about the past, you know, even though it wasn't about like dwelling on the past. It was It was like, you know,
it's a trip, dude.
Yeah.
I had the same experience when I was piecing it together in the garage, and I was like on this emotional roller coaster all of a sudden. It's coming together, and I'm looking at it, and on one end I was having like this flashback, just like what you're describing. And I know people are listening right now, and they're saying, these guys are nuts. But I was like thinking, man, I was like flashed back to my 21-year-old self, you know, 100 years ago, whenever that was. And looking at it, like feeling this little sense of promise and sense of hope and then sense of struggle and all these things. And on the other end, I was thinking, man, I'm probably going to roll this into Mike's shop, and he's going to say like, oh, that's nice, Joe, but can you please get that ugly old thing out of here? And and it was the total opposite, because when I brought it in, and I could see the wheels turning, man.
Yeah, man.
And I was like, man, yeah.
No, I mean, to someone else who they saw that, I mean, the newbie techs right now, or anybody who's getting into it or been in the last 5-10 years, they're going to go, what is that hunk of junk? You know what I mean? But you know what? Everybody's going to have this type of moment sometime in the future of their career, you know,
I think you're right.
Whether it be a tool, a light, something that was part of their growing pains and experience throughout their career, they're going to have. And honestly, I would keep some of that if you guys can. Don't think it's junk. That if it's made you money for a long time, but it might not have been, you know, currently the best tool in your toolbox. I don't know, man. I just keep it for just reminder of all the suffering and sacrificing and, you know, all that crap.
Yeah.
So
for sure. I call it the Wilson factor. Remember that movie, the Tom Hanks, and I think it was called Castaway. Way back when, and he got attached to that one little volleyball with his bloody handprint on it, and he made a face out of it, right? And when he loses it out in the ocean, he just freaks out, man. And how many times, Mike, have you lost a tool, like one tool that was with you for decades, maybe even? I've done it, you know. Like I lost the tool, and like, oh my God, where'd it go? Or sometimes you're lucky enough to find it again, or some gracious soul, reintroduces it to you.
Well, I thought I was never going to see that light again. You know what I mean? Here's what's crazy. And this isn't just about tools. You guys ever think about something, right? And you go, man, I wish I had that. And then you don't think about it anymore, right? Like, and then one day it pops up, you know, and you're like, I was just thinking about that like 2 years ago or 2 months ago or whatever. It was like recent. It's like one of those things my mom used to tell me, like, Michael, you know what, you think about something and maybe you really want it really bad, but in your mind, you got to let it go. And when you fully let go of something, it comes back. I don't know how to explain that crap, but I know it's happened to people. Every person's life at some point, but damn, she was right. And not saying I was like, oh, I wish I had that light right now, but it was like, I wish I could see that light. You know what I mean? So
yeah, man, it's like you said, you see it through your eyes when you were that way back then, that age, and it, and you brought up the students too, or the newbies, and which, are the future of PDR, quite frankly. And again, like I said earlier, I'm not a nostalgic guy. I don't live in the past by any means, but those things were sitting in my buddy's yard for a while, the lights and pieces. And then I acquired them from him for a while and finally put them together for you, because I thought, man, I know Mike's going to recognize this. I know he is. I just know it. And sure enough, you did. And I also was thinking, was for your students, the line board technicians, from what I understand, it seems like, most of them are line board guys. And I don't know if you train anyone with fog, do you?
Oh yeah, I do. I let them have it, but yeah, I'm going to get to that point. But you keep going. Finish your point.
Yeah, for sure. My point is that for them to see, what we used to use, and for us to see what we used to use, and then see what as compared to what we use now, and just how far we've come, it's pretty powerful to me to think we still haven't scratched the surface.
Yeah,
we have so much further to go, and that's pretty damn inspiring for me. That's exciting to me.
That's the nail hit on the head right there, dude. Like, because I was going to say the same thing. If you can't appreciate what was created in the past, because Joe, that was a state of the art light back then, man.
Yeah, it was.
It's a state of the art light. And if you guys, it's like looking at a 1927 Ford Model T, honestly. Okay. Yeah. And you can appreciate the, how can I say it? The time put in it, that Rick put into designing and creating this light, you know what I mean? And look, I know for a fact that Ultra based their light stand off of Rick Dugan's, dude, because I know Steve was even going to get trained by Rick Dugan at one point.
I remember. Yeah, I remember him telling me.
And so when you guys see this light, which I'll show a picture below on my PDR podcast. Okay. You guys go to PDR, excuse me, Dent Time PDR, look up this podcast, click on it, and I'm going to put a picture of this light that we were talking about, and you guys can see the exact light what I mean. So, but like you said, man, it needs to be seen. It needs to be shown and show the history of how far we came. I mean, we plugged it in, right? And it's like not very bright. And we were like, how the hell did we fix dents with this thing? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like survive.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's mind blowing though, Joe. I mean, I wish we could show it as we're talking right now, but we're just trying to give the best visual. You know what I mean? So it had straps, right? Like pull straps to make it go back and forth, which is
it had tie down straps on it, like motorcycle tie down straps, and so if I can explain it, the best way I can explain it is like a 4-foot shop light. I mean the kind. Let me backtrack.
That's more than 4 feet.
When I put it back together, Mike, I went down to Lowe's to see if I could find one of these 4-foot shop lights. And a fluorescent light, because I wanted it to be period correct, I'm kind of OCD that way.
Yeah.
But, and I couldn't find a fluorescent light to save my life. I saw LEDs, and I could have very well put an LED on there. So I had fluorescent shop lights still in my garage, and I took it off my rafters of the garage. And so that's what's on the light right now.
Oh, are you serious, man?
Yes, it is. It is a light. And I replaced it with an LED, by the way. So now I'm coming into the future finally in my garage, little by little. But that Lights of America fluorescent shop light 4-footer that's what Rick used, and the parts that he made on his own. He had this little garage machine shop, and that's another thing that he had mastered was, building really cool stuff, man. I mean, he used to fix parts on my motorcycle, and I was into dirt bikes a lot in the time, desert racing and stuff. And he made this bitchin' kickstand for my bike that he turned on a lathe. It was aluminum. He welded a frame that was cracked at one point. And I mean, the guy could build anything, but he designed that light, the whole stand and all the parts, the trim pieces that hold the lens in place. That was all his design, from what I understand. I wouldn't doubt it anyway.
And it has a tool bender, like a tool bender and a wire bender in it. I mean, he really thought this freaking thing out, man. Like, there's some features on it I would like to see on a current stand right now. I mean, it's
sure.
It's cool as I walked in this morning, right, by myself. And actually, I came back I had to drop off J-Ma and Aaron, and I came back to the shop, and everything's quiet, and I plugged it in, and guess what I hear? It sounded like a little lightsaber coming on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, and it warmed up. It was all, and then it went away. Yeah. You know what I mean? It warmed up. Sure. I remember that. You know what I mean? And then I had to remember taking that light off very carefully. You guys are gonna remember I was first doing dents in a Volkswagen car Garcia with like practically 1 foot of room in the back of the seat. Okay, stuffing all this stuff in there in this big 4-foot light, heavy, 5-piece, thing I had to put together. And you had to be very careful. You bust that bulb or you don't have an extra bulb, man, you're screwed. You know what I mean? It sucked. But
those were the days, man. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy that you lugged that thing around in a Carmen Gia. I'm still pretty damn impressed by that.
Let me tell you something, man. I am so proud of that in my shop, man. It's not funny, man. I mean, that's people. I know people. What is that, man? Oh, man, let me just sit down. You got a little bit of time, so
yeah, it's definitely a conversation piece. Yeah. I appreciate you saying that, man.
I mean, I really, really do appreciate that, Joe, man. And look, man, you're one of the nicest guys out on there. I mean, I knew we clicked as soon as we talked, and we talked most of the time at the IMI. I really hope people will get to know you as well, just as I do, Joe. And I hope to see you. You coming to Las Vegas?
I think so, man. I think I will be. I definitely got a lot of buddies that I talk to regularly that from other parts of the country, I mean, parts of the world, from meeting them at MTE. And I would definitely love to meet up with them. It's always so cool to be able to congregate and break bread together and trade war stories. The camaraderie. Excuse me.
Well, we're gonna go to dinner at least once or twice together when I see you
man.
Over there. Okay.
For sure, man. And before we end the conversation, I wanted to just say something though, real quick, Mike. About again, the light is cool and all that, and it's old school. It's a piece of our history, yours and mine, and it's meaningful to us. But I think what it really makes me think about is just when I see that is just how much our world has changed and how we are a legitimized industry now, thanks to, again, the change makers like yourself and like Vince and TDN Tools and Kevin and Paul Corden and Keith Cosentino, and so many countless others that
Bryce
I
Kelly,
have not mentioned.
All those guys out there, the newcomers, Christopher Ray, all these guys.
Absolutely, man. And every single anybody really, any schmo like Joe Schmo like myself who's just out there pushing, and we're communicating to the world of what premium level PDR is supposed to look like, and to the point where we're legitimized now, and where we've got newcomers coming into the business who are a different breed than what we were. I wholeheartedly believe. Again, I don't want to go on a tangent, and we might be running over time, but I think that what's happening is in the process, our skill is going up in value.
It sure in the heck is.
It really is, and it's so great to see. I think the future is bright for us. I really do.
Oops, I'm dropping all my stuff here. You know what? Here's a point to make before we go to as well. It all starts with how we think, right? And if we believe in ourselves or not. Because how many times have you talked to a customer? If you believe that dent is worth $600, the customer is going to believe it's worth $600. Okay, whether you have a price guide or not, but hopefully you do. But if you sell yourself and you believe in yourself, the customer will too. When you don't, it's funny how a customer or anybody can smell that you don't believe in yourself. So why should they? You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's how you got to change your way of thinking, believe in what you do, believe that you have a lot of self-worth, the value. That's why I was talking about, it's kind of cool that we're ending on this because I started with this in the beginning of this podcast. But I believe 100%, Joe. I think you're 100% right. And we all need to do ourselves our part in help promoting it and at the same time educating the customer.
Yep. Definitely.
Man, Joe, that's a great podcast, man. You're a great guest, and you gave some good insight, man. Check Joe out. Do you have a website at all, Joe?
I do. It's dentevo.com. Dent EVO, like Dent Evolution, but Dent Evo. And that was by design, man. I believe in the evolution, of what we do. And so yeah, dentevo.com, and then of course Instagram's turning into my new website because that seems to be where I'm really able to put a lot of information. And my goal right now is my biggest challenge right now is communicating to the consumers in the best possible way, kind of trying to crack that code through video, through vertical video now. I know you love that. And we'll talk about that another day.
We will. I'll bring you back on. We'll talk about some Instagram stuff.
Absolutely. I'll be glad to be there. And you just let me know. I'd like to talk about pricing too, because that seems to be a real sticking point for a lot of my friends that I've talked with and friendly competitors too, quite frankly. And, it's really not about the cha-ching. It's not about the trying to stick it to customers or get all their money. When you price a job accordingly, and when you price it right, you're giving them the opportunity to have your best possible self involved.
That's right.
We are then able to have the resources, the time, the mindset to really do things in the most proper way, assess it properly, break the job down before you even touch it. So you know exactly how you're going in there. Are you gonna go in there and just poke out that dent with that orange cable running right behind it? I don't think so. You're going to really assess things the right way. You're going to give yourself enough time to do it right, and you might have enough money left over to hire a receptionist to take your damn calls. You know what I mean? And have other dent techs, competent dent techs, to help serve your customers.
Well,
that's how I hope everybody starts thinking.
You're 100% right. And as a matter of fact, we're going to make this a little bit longer podcast since I got you here, because the next time you come on, we're going to have a double whammy. We're going to talk about Instagram. We're going to talk about some tech tips about Instagram, how we can promote it, and what you're doing currently to help promote your Instagram. And we're also going to bring see if I can get Mr. Paul Corden. He's a little busy, but anytime we're talking about it, I know anytime he gets a chance to pitch his value, he's going to be it. He'll come on. So how about I get you and him on the same time the next time you come on? I'd
be honored, man. I'd be honored. He taught me a lot, dude. I've learned so much from that guy about demonstrating value.
That's good. Now I'm going to switch real quick. Okay. So
sure.
What did you and I, me, Steve Brown, Chris Brown, Shane Roses, Matt Armillo. I always forget how to pronounce his name.
Matt Armillo.
Yeah, Armillo. He's gonna kill me. Like, my God, freaking come on!
How dare you?
Okay, let's go get a grip. All right, and a couple other guys.
Yep. Dent Mira.
Yeah. Dent Les.
Yep.
We said, hey man, let's start getting together like every 3 to 4 months and have our own like mini. Get together, MTE, and talk about tech tips and tools, and kind of just really kind of stay in the net, like what's going on. You know what I mean? And help build ourselves up and stay motivated. That's another thing. And
Right.
it just,
That's a big thing.
Like we were talking about too, like, hey, before we knew each other, before we knew internet, before we knew we were all independent, right? And we just had nothing to measure or compare, right? We didn't know where we stood, you know?
Right.
Now,
Chris and I were talking about, not to interrupt, but we were talking about how back in the day it used to be like Highlander, man. Like you see another dent guy on your lot, man. There can only be one, you know?
Yeah, it was like vampires to each other, you know, like daylight and vampire, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
I encourage you guys to do that. Try to get around with your local PDR techs and get together, and see what's up. I'm not telling you to price fix or anything like that. I'm telling you to stay up to date with each other and see what's cracking. You know what I mean? So I think it's going to be really, really good. I can't wait we're going to do that in August, right? We got it down.
Yep.
So
August, yes, sir.
anybody in Southern California, they want to join us, please do, man. Hit me up. I will tell you the exact date and where we're going to meet. We're actually going to meet at Vince's shop. Yeah, Vince is going to be there too.
Okay,
so obviously.
cool.
All right. So
Nice
anyways.
central location.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I want to thank you again, Joe, for coming on, man. You, great conversation. And I hope everyone enjoys this podcast. And thank you again though, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. You're so very welcome, my friend. Thank you too. It's an honor to be here.
You got it, Joe. And hang on just a second. Hey, if anybody is interested in the, again, IMI, go to ansonpdr.com. You can get some more information there and sign up, or volunteer your own shop to host it and see what they can do for you. I'm Mike Toledo. This is Joe Garcia at Dent Evo on Instagram, and my handle is Instagram at Dent Time. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one.